Okay. I'm going to use my headphones today. And Clyde's being a jerk out front. I can hear him. Clyde! Clyde! He don't want to come check it out. Come here. Clyde Poo. Clyde Poo. We have a storm coming in, so hopefully I don't lose power. Because if I lose power, then I lose... Well, not this. Never mind, I just lose the computer. Clyde, Clyde. Okay, I'm being loud. I'm home alone today, if you can't tell. And life may be getting exciting, yeah? It's awfully bright. I just don't like... I wish it was like... Pardon me. Okay, page 224. The Baron Trump collection. And this time I do have to kind of hold my glasses away from my face. Okay, along a highway, they have to sit like this. Along a highway of the underworld, all went well until the sun was well up over our heads, when suddenly I heard a woman, who proved to be Juliana, utter a piercing scream. In a moment or so, the mystery was solved. The old beldam came rushing down the mountain, her thin wisp of gray hair fluttering in the wind. Her hands were tied behind her, and her 2 young peasants with birchen rods were beating her every chance they got. Turn back, brothers," they cried to my 2 men. "The little wizard there has struck hands with this old witch. They're on their way to the giant's well. They'll loosen a band of black spirits about our ears. We shall all be bewitched. Quick, quick, cast off the loads you're bearing and follow us." The 2 men didn't wait for a second bidding, and throwing the tackle on the ground, they all disappeared like a flash. But for several moments I could hear the screams of poor Juliana as these young wretches beat the old woman with their birchen rods. Well, dear readers, what say ye to this? Was I not in a pleasant position, truly? Alone with Bulger in that wild and gloomy mountain region, the black rocks hanging like frowning giants and ogres over our heads, with the dwarf pines for hair, clumps of white roses for eyes, vast gaping cracks for mouths, and gnarled and twisted roots for terrible fingers, ready to reach down for my poor little weazen frame. Did I fall a-trembling? Did I make haste to follow those craven spirits down the mountainside? Did I shift the peg of my courage a single hole lower? Not I. If I had, I wouldn't have been worthy of the name I bore. What I did was to throw myself at full length on a bed of moss, call Bulger to my side, and close my eyes to the outer world. I have heard of great men going to bed at high noon to give themselves up to thought, and I had often done it myself before I had heard of their doing it. That sounds like depression, yeah? In 15 minutes by nature's watch, the sun on the face of the mountain, I had solved the problem. Now there were two difficulties staring me in the face, namely, to find somebody to show me the way up the mountain, and if that body couldn't carry my tackle, then to find somebody else who could. It suddenly occurred to me that I had noticed some cattle grazing at the foot of the mountain, and, what's more, that these cattle wore very particular yokes. What are those yokes for? I asked myself, for they were a make quite different from any that I remembered ever having seen, and consisted of a stout wooden collar, from the bottom of which there projected backward between the beast's forelegs a straight piece of wood armed with an iron spike pointing toward the ground. At the top of the yoke was bound by a leather thong to the animal's horns. So long, therefore, as the beast held his head naturally or even lowered it to graze, the yoke was drawn forward and the hook was kept free from the ground. But the very moment the animal raised his head in the air, at once the hook was thrown into the ground and he was prevented from taking another step forward. Now, dear readers, you may or may not know that when a cleft-hoofed animal starts to ascend a steep bank, unlike a solid-hoofed beast, he throws his head into the air instead of lowering it, and therefore it struck me at once that the purpose of the yoke was to keep the cattle from making their way up the sides of the mountain and getting lost. But why should they want to clamber up the mountainsides? Simply because there was some kind of grass or herbage growing up there which was a delicacy to them, and knowing, as well as I did, what risks animals will take and what fatigue they will undergo to reach a favorite grazing ground, it struck me at once that if I would make it possible for them to reach this favorite food of theirs, they would be very glad to give me a lift on my way. No sooner said than done. I forthwith retraced my steps until I fell in with a group of these cattle, and it did not take me many minutes to loosen their yokes from their horns and tie the hooks up under their bodies so that their progress uphill would not be interfered with. They were delighted to find themselves so unexpectedly freed from the hateful drawback which permitted them merely to view the coveted grazing grounds from afar, and then having cut me a suitable goad, I again stepped up the mountain, driving my new friends leisurely on ahead of me. Upon reaching the spot where the superstitious peasants had thrown the tackle to the ground, I proceeded to load it upon the back of the gentlest beast of the lot, and was soon on my way again. Chapter 5. Up and still up, and through the quarries of the demons, how the cattle kept a trail, and how we came at last upon the brink of the giant's well. The terraces are safely passed, beginning of the descent into the well itself. All difficulties overcome, we reach the edge of Polyphemus's funnel. Generally speaking, people with very large heads are fitted out by nature with a pair of rather pipe-stemmy legs, but such was not my case. I was blessed with legs of the sturdiest sort, and found no difficulty in keeping pace with my new four-footed friends who, to my delight, were not long in convincing me that they had been there before. Not for an instant did they halt at any fork in the path, but kept continually on the move, often passing over stretches of ground where there was no trail visible, but coming upon it again with unfailing accuracy. Only once they halted, and that was to shake their thirst at a mountain rill, Bulger and I following their example. It was only too evident to me that they had in mind a certain grazing ground, and were resolved to be satisfied with no other. So I let them have their own way, for as it was still up, 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 I felt that it was perfectly safe to follow their lead. At last the mountainside began to take on quite another character. The gorges grew narrower, and at times overhanging rocks shut out the sunlight almost entirely. We were entering a region of peculiar wilderness, of fantastic grandeur. I had often read of what travelers termed the quarries of the demons in the northern Urals, but never till now had I the faintest notion of what the expression meant. Imagine to yourself the usual look of ruin and devastation around and about a quarry worked by human hands. Then, in your own thoughts, conceive every chip to be a block, and every block a mass. Add 4 times its size to every slab and post and pediment, and then turn a mighty torrent through the place, and roll and twist and lift them up in wild confusion, end on end, and on each other, piled, I don't say piled, piled, till these wild waters have builded fantastic portals to temples more fantastic, more till these wild waters have builded fantastic portals to temples more fantastic, and arched wild gorges with roofs of rock which seem to hang so lightly that a breath or football might bring them down with terrible crash. And then, dear friends, you may succeed in getting a faint idea of the wild and awful grandeur of the scene which now lay spread out before me. Would the cattle that had now led Bulger and me so safely up the mountainside know where to find an entrance to this wilderness of broken rock? And what was more important still, would they, when once engaged within its winding courts and corridors, its darkened maze of wall and parapet, its streets and plazas roughly paved as if by demon hands impatient of the task, know how to find their way out again? That kind of sounds like the Greek labyrinth. I was watching something on that the other day, and it was really interesting. Okay. Anyway, I think they found it. Like nope, not Greek. Syrian, Iranian, something like that. Quit procrastinating on anything and everything. Time wasted is just that, wasted. Avoid distractions and the noise around me. Block it out. The art of continuous self-love through food, through water intake, through intentional meditation and thought. Something inside of me is superior to circumstance. Is it kind? Is it true? Does it reflect my authentic self? Focus more on money and its education. Focus more on self-discipline. See the sun. Honor the moon. Forward momentum. The path out of hell is through misery. Honor my journey. I am a slave to my own incessant urge to escape the present moment. Meditate, walk, journal, stretch, love animals, leave life to wander all it needs. Less stress, more fairy tale. Work on bettering the love I show my body through the food and beverage I put in it. With money, it's not what you make, but what you keep. Focus. Lose any ties to victim mentality. Continue to love yourself. Continue to help yourself. Today is August 6th of 2025, and it marks my the passing of my daughter's 19th birthday, and today, her pass date. She passed away on August 6th. So I honor her today, and I send her love. And she knows I'll see her soon. The path out of hell is through misery. I look forward to seeing her. It's a fantastic day, and there's a lot of opportunities in front of me that I've worked hard to be prepared for, all in her honor. So, move, bitch. Get out the way. Get out the way, bitch. Get out the way. Move, bitch. Get out the way. Get out the way, bitch. Get out the way. Oh no. Lights out. Nope. Fights out. I'm about to knock your lights out. Got your grill. You better stand still. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Ludicrous. Because if you do the speed limit, get the fuck out of my way. Okay. Till tomorrow.